from your position, this behemoth that we have, and it seems like this is an entity that we can't seem to control at all. There's no handles on it. So I know that you're running the play here. What is someone who doesn't have your skill set? What's the play that we run, or how do we engage where while we're being attacked by this entity, we can actually be able to fight back against it? Because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's not just a good question. That's the question, right? Yeah. I think that everybody who wants to call out the problem, but they don't have a solution, like you're not my guy, like you don't help me at all. So I would never bring a problem to my boss without a solution, or maybe a couple of them. Here's what I think needs to be done. Number one is that I become more faithful. I become more rooted in my spirituality and in my faith in Jesus because of what I've gone through. Yep. So adversity actually forges stronger faith. Nobody needs to look for it. Many people do, but not everybody needs to find that problem. Like they don't need to find the solution, rather, when they don't see a problem. Right now, we're dealing with a real problem. And as you just aptly stated, the people on the political left, the progressive leftists, actually think that God and government are the same. Yeah. They think that their rights come from government and not are God-given. Right. And that's a problem. And in fact, if you look at the sort of the tenets of leftism, you'll find that they would actually be able to be protected as a religion, what they call a sincerely held belief, under Title VII, the way the federal code is written. So that's what we're up against. That's a big, big problem. The answer for every person is going to be different, but I think the family of answers is we lost a lot of ground in 2020. I think that was one of the things that I almost lost my ability to go to church with a clear head. I was so frustrated that people were spacing out every other pew where I was, that people were scared to do the right thing, to get close together and to worship God and raise their voices and show their faces to each other.
Yeah.
And my mindset went to this, and I think this is the answer. You know, our ancestors in faith died for their faith. They were crucified, they were burned, they were, fed to lions. Yeah. They celebrated, the Eucharist in catacombs where there was rotting dead around them, because that's where they had to go underground to make it happen. This happened every time that faith has been persecuted, except in 2020. I think that Americans kind of rolled over in a lot of ways. Just hear me out across the country. I'm not specific.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
I agree with you.
Oh, yes.
I agree with you.
Oh, yes.
So people rolled over. And so the answer is we lost some ground. But we have a do-over, because we've been able to get that ground back if you want it. So the answer to the plan is as follows. Find out where the red line is. Draw it very clearly for yourself and for your family. Do not step over it no matter what happens, including up to your life. And that's a hard thing to say, so you do it in small increments. You don't accept that people tell you to be quiet. You don't accept censorship. You certainly don't self-censor, because that means you've internalized what the government is asking you to do. That means that you sort of tacitly acknowledge that they have the right to do that. So we can't do that. We can't give any ground. We have to know that we are going to take a stand. And I just covered this with my guys, but every human being has this sort of contrary nervous system interactions. One of them is called the parasympathetic and the other is called the sympathetic. The parasympathetic is sort of what they call feed and breed. That's when you're eating, that's when you're relaxed, that's when you're not facing a threat. The sympathetic is when you have a threat, when you encounter something that is a potential issue for you. And we always say that that's the fight or flight, but that's not exactly accurate. It's not just fight and flight, it's fight, flight, and freeze. And what we saw in this country is that the instinct is overwhelmingly, probably 80% plus, it's freeze. It's, I haven't thought of what the correct action is, so I'm going to do nothing. And that's very common. That's very common for people. That's why we have basic training in the military. The goal is to do what they call stress inoculation. They're going to show you something scary. They're going to show you how to respond to it. So when something scary comes your way, you respond to it the way you were trained.
You don't freeze.
We've got to train ourselves right now.
That's right.
And you can do that with prayer, and you can do that with your faith, but you can also do that with your mindset. You can decide, hey, I'm not going to put on a mask when someone tells me. I'm not going to abstain from going to worship services. We're going to open the door up, and we're going to raise our voices, and we're going to stand closer than 6 feet. We're going to hold hands, and we're going to say the Lord's Prayer. We're going to do the things that need to be done, because we already know that they can't take that from us. And if they take our freedom, so be it. We need to really get close to the idea of white martyrdom. I brought up the idea that people died for their faith. That's called red martyrdom. But white martyrdom is kind of overlooked. And that just means you're going to be inconvenienced for a while. You might lose a paycheck. You might lose some friends. You might have some family members not speak to you. You might find that you are a social outcast in certain areas. So be it. That's the answer. The answer is you don't give any ground anymore, period. Because we don't have any more ground to give. You already got a do-over. Rarely do we get a mulligan in history.
That's right.
But we've got one. So that's where we're at right now. I think the answer is we don't accept it. And then we hold our politicians accountable. It doesn't matter if you think that outcomes are the right way to go. We can't operate as Christians as operationally moral people where the ends justify the means.
Right.
We have to be doing it the right way for the right reason right now. And then when it comes along, it comes along. People prayed for the end of abortion at the federal level for 50 plus years, and they were unsuccessful, and they finally got the Dobbs decision, which is like a moderate success, and it throws it to the states. Now you got more work to do. You just got 50 places to do it.
Yeah.
So incremental progress is progress as long as you're doing it for the right reason at the right way. But accepting sort of like a quantum leap forward by doing it the wrong way is not how we do business. There's 2,000 years of history behind saying how you do business. So people can remember that there is a bigger truth with a capital T and not what's convenient today and what might work in the political sphere. So I like cross politics because I think it says exactly the right order. You know,
I just found my favorite Catholic.
I got